Okay, so it should now be live. Yes. Could someone please leave us a comment in the chat and let us know that they can hear us? I see people filtering in here. Okay, I see Steve. Welcome, Steve. Okay, then I guess we can get started, right? So, hello everyone, and welcome to the first of a 4-part virtual series co-hosted by Share PLM and OpenBOM called Demystifying Modern PLM. I'm Heather Long, and I'm from Share PLM, and I'm going to be your host. I would first like to thank everyone for joining us today and tell you that we're very excited that you're here. On our agenda for this session, I'm going to do this quick little introduction, and then we'll get right into the presentation. And at the end of the session, we will have time for a Q&A. So you can ask any of your questions during the presentation using the Q&A panel of the webinar, and we will answer them at the end. So in all of these sessions of this web event, Oleg Shilovitsky, the co-founder of OpenBOM, a leading SaaS digital network-based global platform, and Helena Gutierrez, who is the co-founder of Share PLM, a leading education technology company, are going to focus on sharing their knowledge and experience of developing modern PLM systems. Today, we are also going to hear from Chris Chaulk, who is the Chief Architect of OpenBOM. So today's session, it will be about technology and understanding the characteristics of modern PLM software. So in this session, Oleg is going to guide us through the components of modern PLM technology, and he's going to help us understand the difference between new flexible tools and traditional monolithic systems. So without further ado, I'll let Oleg start this great presentation that we've prepared for you. So Oleg, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Heather, for the great introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us in this session. And before we go in the session details, I just wanted to give you an introduction to an entire 4 series webinars. As we've been going through the substantial changes in the manufacturing environment, in the technological environment, in our lives, moving from in-person to online and exploring all these different opportunities. Helena and I were managing a lot of conversations about how we can better share knowledge and share our experience in development, supporting and educating manufacturing companies that are looking how to optimize processes and better use different technologies to manage their data. So we came with the idea of this webinar series that will help you to look from a different perspective on what is happening in development of product lifecycle management systems. And we took this for perspective, technology, product sales, and education, and decided that we will create this 4 series webinars to share our knowledge and our experience that we gathered through the different work that we do at OpenBOM and Share PLM. So today I'm very excited to start with first session about what happened and what happens with technologies and how we can use modern technologies to create different PLM systems and environment. So I think we can start, Helena, and let's get it started.
Very good. Hola a todos. My name is Helena Gutierrez, and I'm from Share PLM. And I'm very excited to be here today with Oleg. This event is special for me because I get to explore modern PLM technologies with Oleg, who's been my modern mentor for the past 10 years. Because when I started my career in the PLM area, I used to read every single piece of content that Oleg wrote. And if you've been following Oleg, Well, that's quite a lot. So today I'll be asking him questions to try to understand better how technology is changing and what we can do about it. So if you are ready to go, Oleg, let's get started with the first question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Helena, and thank you for your kind words about writing. It's just unimaginable to think how many years it already goes, and as much as 20 years sounds a long time, but it's changing very fast. So what I would like to introduce you a perspective on the 4 generations of PLM systems. And I know some of our listeners will say there are maybe more than 4 and there is something that was in between before. But again, as far as I can see, we've been moving in the 3rd generation of systems that was mostly file-based CAD systems, and to manage data, develop their own databases. So that was a long time in the past, although some of the systems might be still in production. Amazing to think about how these technologies can survive for a long time in the companies. But the 2nd generation was about introducing of database technologies. So when the database technologies came, the SQL-based relational database were introduced, the company started to bring those databases to manage product information, to manage CAD files. Amazing enough, I was reading some of the news from back in these days, and relational database were introduced as a way to create a flexible data management environment, unlike proprietary databases that were hard to change. So most of current production PLM systems in the industry are using this, what I call 2nd generation of systems that are based on the relational databases. However, the changes started to come with the introduction of cloud and integration of cloud technologies and introduction of hosted systems. So what the 3rd generation was about is how to take mostly existing technologies and host them on different providers and service providers. It could be Amazon cloud services, web services. It could be Google environment. It can be just proprietary or company specific hosting services. So hosting of the systems solved many problems, mostly for IT, and changed the landscape from the PLM system to be installed, configured in-house, to be hosted and provided as a service. So that was a big change, and over the last 10 years, this is where a major effort of the industry was. Although this was also the time where companies discovered limits of the hosting existing software architecture, and companies started to discover a lot of new technologies, a lot of new ways to manage data, a lot of different diverse environments and ways to how to scale system to become more flexible, better scaling, global, and more collaborative. Because remember that the 2 hosted environments are still not collaborating. Even they are using Magic Cloud Word, they're still not collaborating. So then the 4th generation of system, and this is where I can see a lot of development is happening, and we do it at OpenBOM, and we see other vendors that also focusing on the development of SaaS and cloud-based systems. They are using a variety of modern database technologies and web technologies to make systems global, available, collaborative. And in many words, it's in many ways those systems are helping us to work with data, and we will talk more and more about data. Those systems are helping us to work with data anywhere, with any people, on any devices, in any environment. If we work for a single company, if we collaborate with contractors and suppliers. So these architectures are enabling us to bring data wherever we need it, collaborate with people, and to simplify and streamline data workflow. So those are 4 generations. What is important is that those generations will not replacing in a one sign. And it's like 25 years ago, people telling that 2D dimensional drawings will be dying in 5 years. So the same can be said about all these environments. Companies are investing money and companies investing time to implement those systems. So we will see the systems continue for long time, and we will address it in some of other future questions about how you can deal it in your company. What if your company already invested in PLM and you have it already implemented? How to think about bringing new technologies that can help you in addition to whatever PLM system you already have implemented. So we will address it in the next questions, and just for the moment, those are 4 generations that you can think about, and that's how you can think about progress in PLM technologies.
That's very good. I have one question here to this slide. How do you recognize if a company is in phase 3 or in phase 4?
Oh, it's a great question. So I think it's mainly goes with technological stack and the systems that companies are using. So the simple way to differentiate is that you think about data architecture, and you think about the way companies are using the system. So the one differentiator, and again, it's multiple characteristics. So if the system is available on premise and can be hosted as is, you're mostly thinking about the 3rd generation of systems. Although if you see the system is heavily using infrastructure that is only available on the infrastructure as a service like Amazon or others, you think about more architecture that is in 4th generation, although I would not say there is a straight borderline between them. Although there is a one characteristic that I would say always in 4th generation and practically never in the 3rd generation of system, this is the multi-tenancy. And multi-tenancy is the characteristic of the system that allows the same system to be used by multiple companies. So it's very often people speak about multi-tenancy as the ability to use the same servers by multiple companies, but this is a very narrow view on the multi-tenancy. The big thing about multi-tenancy is think about this as a network layer on the data that helps to connect multiple silos, multiple pieces of information, and multiple companies and organizations together. So this is something that allows you to think about sharing product structure between 2 companies and allowing each company to get access to respective set of information. So this is the database multi-tenancy, which again brings features that cannot be done any other way. So there are a set of criteria, you can think about them, and this is how you differentiate between them.
Right. Very good. So we go to the next question. So what are major technologies influencing PLM in the 2020s?
Yeah, so technology is fascinating things. First of all, you cannot stop them. So I was gathering some of these names, and sometimes those are good buzzwords, and sometimes there are very fundamental things that are happening in the technology and in our environment. So what is on the top of the list is digital transformation. And the digital transformation, I think it's hard to find somebody who is not talking about digital transformation these days. But the digital transformations means different thing for everyone. Depends on the company and depends on the environment. But to me, digital transformation is about how we move from documents to data. So we've been using document paradigm for a very long time. It's encapsulating piece of information. I believe that it's very hard to get out of documents because it's so natural, and people were learning these paradigms for 30, 40 years. But moving from documents to data is extremely important because it will make information granular and will remove this boundary of document that sometimes it's very artificial and doesn't help to companies to manage information and make information available for people. So the other thing is the scale. I think scale, it's something that fundamentally is going to change the way we think about PLM and the processes and data that we manage. which started as a data management for engineering organization and then expanding to company. Today it's expanded on the global scale. Like everyone is interested how to get information related to what they do, get information that will help them to make decisions. There are a lot of supply chain is on top of everyone's mind these days. So how to get the access to the right information in the context of what you develop early in the process. So we're talking about big scale of information management that will improve the way we manage everything and will help us. Digital thread is one of those new paradigms and terms that were introduced a long time ago, and you probably have heard about this as a linking of information. So today we speak about this as a digital thread, or sometimes as a digital web of information. Names are fancy, but fundamentally it's about connecting of pieces of information. And when we connect pieces of information, that's what makes information very powerful and what can help us to make decisions in a much more knowledgeable and informative way. A simulation, it's another way to think about how we can use data, and the digital twin, it's something that is becoming very popular topic for discussion, and for many companies that investing in how they can simulate digitally the products and behaviors that are happening in real life. So the connection between them, it's another very interesting topic that impacting all the systems, because we want to design and use product. So we design virtually, we use product physically, and these two environments are going to be interconnected. So how to make all this data playing together, I think it's a big question that the technology companies and PLM companies will be solving for the next few years. Everyone is familiar with the bill of materials, although we coming more towards something that people call now bill of information, which basically transformation of the bill of materials in the way of part list into more representative data sets that connects different pieces of information. Keep in mind the word that I'm repeating all the time, it's connect, because the connecting where the power is coming from, the breaking the silos, connecting different pieces of information together, helping us to navigate and make decision. Moving from virtual to physical, this is where a lot of new opportunities are coming from, because that's something that can speed up the development and something that can help to gain more intelligence, because from knowing how product perform physically, we can improve virtually design. So last but not least, data analytics. Again, coming back to the data is everywhere. To be able to analyze this data, that's something that will help us a lot in the way we can optimize company performance, in the way we can optimize product performance and all processes and streamline our company operations. So those are kind of major things. We can talk more about them, but the key three things that I want you to leave with is data, the analytics, and connections. So it's all this together will bring us to the next level of performance and everything that product lifecycle management is working on.
Very interesting. Maybe one question, I see many fancy names here. In your opinion, how much of that is marketing, and do you really think that technology is changing so much?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's always it's always a hard question about how much of the new technology it's really new technology. So I think there are a lot of things here that related to data. That's a real thing. It's like when we started to develop OpenBOM as an online platform, we discovered how much technology is available today to manage data, to run our online environment, to help companies to collaborate and manage data. So there are new things that never used before by the traditional or previous generation of PLM systems developed using relational database technologies. On the other side, keep in mind, companies are not interested in technology in general, they're interested in solving their problems. So what I would like, when you're facing the question, what is a real technology, is what is marketing, let's dig deeper, okay? Let's try to understand what functions and what benefits it brings.
Yeah,
so
maybe
for example,
to the next question, where we will actually also dive into database, right, and technology.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
So that's the question. Is there really a magic database technology that will change PLM?
Yeah, that's the PLM was always about databases, and it was a lot about data, and it's always the thinking that the next technology in database will solve all the problems. So the data management transformation in PLM also was going in stages, and the first stage we've been mostly focusing on files, sending them by emails, but mostly was about files. So the next level brought us database technologies that connected, and those are single databases. So different enterprise systems use those databases to store and manage data. But then the questions of silos and integration between them came and introduced many challenges, how to connect all this data environment, because you can develop as many as you can, this siloed one-to-one, peer-to-peer integrations. But it was not efficient and very expensive. So to simplify the data streamline was introduction of different integration hubs. And we see them a lot around. Many platforms are introducing the concept of integration and providing kind of umbrella vision of how to bring data under the single roof. We can see those examples in PLM, and many PLM systems are playing the role of hubs to integrating data from multiple systems. And there are also other environments, integration hubs that are doing the same. So what we are coming to the next stage is when the systems are moving from database and becoming services. So it might sound like, oh, it's about the same, but it's really not. It's, in my view, the changes between database and services comes when the data is becoming available seamlessly for everyone to access the information. It's like in financial systems, I can get online stock information at any moment of time. So when we change, or I can get the weather information online at any moment of time and use it. So those are examples from the public web. But if you think about data management, and you can think about enterprise systems, to have service that helps you to get information at any moment of time, and integrate those services to operate together. This is where a lot of power is coming. For example, if an OpenBOM will run online environment which is available at any moment of time, our customers can integrate costing information coming from different online sources in the bill of materials that calculating cost, and then put this information in the online system for sales. So we have customers that perform such type of online integrations. So you can make analysis of the risks of suppliers, vendors. You can perform different type of online services for cost calculation, different type of online services, and there are a variety of systems that do it. It's still very transformative, and it's coming in many places. You see these new services, but the power of this system is that it brings an online environment that just works together. It's a live coordinated system. So that's where the changes will be coming, because the companies will stop operating like this is files towards more online environment that just stitching and bringing these data pieces together. it's a very hard task, and I think it's a big transformation in the industry. But this is where the new opportunities will be coming.
Very interesting.
So I think we can move forward and think about what is on the foundation of these data management technologies. Like if you think about 20 years ago, when somebody was asking question about data management, the question was, is it looks like a file? And we can use Microsoft Office. If it looks like a relational database, it looks like a document, not document, and we go with the relational database. That was very simple. So you get file management and you get a database with information. But now the landscape of data management is changing and expanding. So when we started OpenBOM, we've been asking ourselves a question. So should we use one database, or should we think about something different? And as in software engineering, you remember it was like 25 years ago a question what programming language we should use. And some systems were developed in Fortran and some developed in COBOL. So, but today we don't have this question anymore because we understand the different languages are just different tools. So we started to think about databases as tools. And so I wanted to invite our chief architect, Chris Chaulk, to talk about the story how we started to architect OpenBOM as a new system, and the decisions that we took to manage data, slightly different from what we've been doing when we put a single relational database system behind the PLM. So, Chris, it's over to you now. Please take it forward.
Okay, thanks, Oleg. As Oleg said, when we started OpenBOM, we obviously discussed the problem space and the domain, and Oleg and I came from different backgrounds, but similar challenges. So, we both had worked with the popular relational databases and struggled with managing information in a relational database and the problems that you encounter. For example, dealing with a graph data model. You can do that in a relational database, but it's a challenge and resource intensive and really not the best tool. And there are other document models that have become more popular in the problem space, and having a document that's extensible and dynamic is something that's a hard fit with a relational database. So we're familiar with emergent technologies, document databases, graph databases, and we had both used those in our prior jobs, and had a similar philosophy in terms of using the right tool for the job. And this is where we come to polyglot persistence. Polyglot meaning multiple languages. It's a term in software engineering that basically describes what we believe in is using multiple persistence mechanisms and the right tool for the right job. So with OpenBOM, we use databases to manage the graphical data model. So obviously, bill of materials is a hierarchical network structure and lends itself well to the graph. But then there's other types of data. Oleg mentioned various attributes like cost, and other things that need to be associated with that data model that are managed differently. And then we have all this data that needs to be searched across the entire domain, and then we use a different tool for that, for searching data. And it was, as a small, growing startup, we realized that all the SaaS tools available to us would make this polyglot persistence world possible. And as opposed to creating a single tenant legacy system, as you see here on the left, where you have one customer with their application and their database, we said we need to move to a multi-tenant stack where everyone is sharing the same infrastructure. This lends itself well to what we needed to do, and also given our size, our need to grow quickly, we couldn't go with the traditional model of having, for example, an application administrator or a database administrator for every database for every application, and the SaaS platforms that were emerging at the time lend itself very well to offloading that concern to third parties. So we ended up with the picture that you see here, the multi-tenant stack, where we're sharing data across, all the infrastructure, and all the data is managed, in the cloud, using various SaaS resources. And some of the advantages of this are, as I mentioned, lower costs through shared administration, and shared usage. So one of the other philosophies we had when we started was we don't want to have an additional cost to add a new user. So new users can be added to the system. It's no additional cost to us, no additional cost passed on to the user. And so this democratization of usage allows for that same infrastructure to be used by the smallest of our clients to the largest of our clients. They also benefit from the same improvements and advances at the same time. So there's a single code base, and a single place for updates. So opposed to the traditional model of updating a customer at a time, database updates one at a time. We can update everything at once. Everyone sees all of those same updates at the same time. And this allows us to also do faster upgrades, whether it's the technology that we're using, upgrading those things in place, or a quicker release schedule. For example, we try to do an update a month, and hot fixes in between. We can do that quickly and transparently with this model. We can also customize the system based on the customer. So based on their license, based on their size, based on what they desire, the system can be segmented and various features available to those users as opposed to others.
That's good. That was actually my question to you, Chris. You know that companies are always special and they love to customize their PLM system. How well does this multi-tenancy model that you are explaining fit with customizations? Can you give us some hints there?
Yeah, I mean, for example, this this architecture also lends itself well to customization and rapid deployment for things that need to be customized. So, for example, a large OEM could have their own infrastructure. So we could decide to run the infrastructure on another cloud environment in a separate space, physically and logically separated from the other application, and that customer could have their, that OEM customer could then provide, a separate application that's customized for their needs and for their customers, or even that same infrastructure could be stamped out and deployed in-house for a customer that, generally the larger enterprise customer that may have security needs that preclude them from using the cloud. One other benefit I wanted to touch on with multi-tenancy is the ability to easily share data between customers. So this is one of our key use cases. We're manufacturing, you have, not just necessarily a single company with all the users internal. Those companies are working with contractors to source products, to build products, to design products. So this lends itself well, as opposed to the siloed approach, to easily share that data across companies with all the attendant security concerns, built in. So, for example, we limit. I saw that there was a question about security in Q&A. We limit one aspect of security is the ability to limit what customers see down to the data level. Is as well as the various views. So a contractor might see one set of attributes about the parts versus the designer of that particular piece of technology.
Right. Very interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we can skip. There are many things here that we've been talking already, so we just can go next, I think.
Yeah, that's maybe the key question of this presentation for me. How does cloud and SaaS make PLM different?
Yeah, the question of different, it's always the one that asked, because it's like I said, the companies are not interested in technologies in general. They are interested in how this technology can help to solve the problems. And I think Chris just did a great job explaining that, we can do something in the new multi-tenant SaaS technology that cannot be done otherwise. So, for example, sharing data, rolling the technology to the smallest customers, as well as rolling technology to the largest companies. So scaling down was a big challenge for all big monolithic systems, because that assumed IT, installation, configuration, all the things should have been happening in a company. And when you have a small company that just interested in a particular set of functions, they have hard time to do it. So SaaS solves this problem. To be able to connect data and share the information between companies, it would be another way that's practically impossible to do with legacy system, because even if you have two legacy systems hosted in the cloud without multi-tenant layer, then you need to extract data from one system and send it to another, which makes cloud basically pointless, because those are still the same environment. And the last thing, which is super important, is everything that related to analytics and additional information analysis, because we all want to be more intelligent. And the way manufacturing companies want to be more intelligent is like just to say, like, if you are going to supermarket with Amazon application, you are multiple times more intelligent than an average procurement department of manufacturing company, because they work on their siloed data, the data that they have, the contractors and suppliers they work with. So to bring more intelligence to this, to bring more information also from supplier side, but also from the product side, it's something that helps you to dig into and make analysis. So I would say connecting data sets, global scale, and intelligence and analytics are three main reasons that will make modern PLM different, regardless if it's installed and hosted on the global Amazon Web Services web stack, or this is the same system that is hosted by big OEM connecting all contractors and suppliers. So the principles of the systems will be the same, and that's what will make the system different. And it's all about data.
Right.
I just put this image, and because I think many questions are coming. So, what are old systems? Are dead? Well, they are not dead, but their life will be prolonged as long as the companies that invested money into them will continue to use those systems. And I know, Helena, both you and me had in some historical record the usage of SmartTeam as a PLM system. So yeah, we still know customers that run SmartTeam as a system because they invested a lot of money into the system, and they still use it. Does it mean that it will stay forever? No. That's where companies will discover new opportunities and new technologies, and they will discover what can be done easier, cheaper, and faster. So it's all about these three things: how to make things different. And I think as long as companies will discover these new things, they will make decisions about what will be happening next.
Right. maybe one question still behind to the previous slide. How quick is this change going to happen? How quick how quick do you think SaaS is going to kill the dinosaur?
I think again, let's just we're all engineers. Let's separate the big problem and the small problem. I think what we are going to see is the higher level of diversity. So, like at OpenBOM, we're dealing with a large, just humongous, large amount of customers that do not have any data management tools. Mm-hmm. So everything they have is Excel. Mm-hmm. So for them, it's a question if it's affordable and if they are ready to embark in this data management in process improvement. So mm-hmm. for them, it's a question how it solves their problems, and if it's something that they are ready to do, they will be doing it. So it's completely separate if you go to large enterprise OEM manufacturers. Those companies already have like several generations of PLM systems. So although it was an interesting data point that was recently brought by SimData, a leading PLM analytic companies, and they said that from their cloud research, 60%, more than 60% of manufacturing companies these days are looking how to replace their legacy environment and looking in the cloud systems these days. So it means the change is in the air, and it all depends on the companies, how fast they can do it. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, technologies are easy for most of them. People are hard, and these are the people that need to change.
Absolutely. Maybe there you can give us some hints about the challenges for these companies that are shifting to modern PLM technology.
Yeah, I think I sort of said it in my last word. The biggest challenge for these companies are people, mm-hmm. because those people need to lead the change. So people leading the change, and it's much harder than just bringing technology, plug it in, and use it. Although I would not diminish the technological challenges as well. So, for example, one of the challenges at OpenBOM when we created was how to create fully integrated environments with CAD systems that can be run over the web and deployed with a single click, generating information, acquiring data with a single click. This is the pure technological challenges. But on the other side, there are people that need to understand why they are using the system and what problem it will solve for them. So what I recently started to think that the best way for companies to think about this is to think about engineering time. So think about engineering time and how much time you burn in going through Excels, losing information. So for those companies, it's very interesting to see that we've seen these examples coming from the Fortune 500 customers, and we've seen it from very small companies. So unfortunately, we are all people very bad in counting our own time. So this is the biggest challenge. So when we start count our time, that's the moment of time that we will start think how to change. And then we will be looking for a tool. So exactly like some engineers coming to us excited and said, look, last year I spent 5 hours every week massaging my Excel bombs. And this year with OpenBOM, I spend only 10 minutes every week. So, but that's the counting problem, right? So somebody needs to understand that 5 hours massaging BOM is a problem. So, or losing Excel files, or doing some manual task of extracting information from one place and manually placing this information in another place. If it's a file, CAD system, PLM system, or ERP system, the problem is the same. So we should start counting time and then think how technology can help us. So that's where I see the biggest problem. So like I wanted to bring this picture because this is where I see a lot of very problematic situations are happening. Where people are busy and doing hard work, copy data, managing Excel, running all systems. But the change is hard for people, and because change is hard, so you come and help them, and they say like, don't, this week we cannot talk, we are very busy. The moment of time people start counting the things, the time that they spend on this, it will be different for them. So I outline 5 5 things that we've learned working with thousands of engineers and manufacturing companies. So legacy data is a big problem. The integrations with existing tools is a big problem. The data acquisition, if you come with any new system, you should do it. It's like without this, the system will be very hard to implement and get it up and running. That's why we've been focusing a lot in OpenBOM how to automatically collect information from CAD files, from assemblies, from Excel files, from different databases. So making data acquisition easy, this is one of the challenges, but also the solution. And then people are really hard, and to make them to believe that they can change. It's the biggest challenge, because people need to understand how to answer on the question why. And when we come to companies, we're helping them to get this answer. Why do they need to change? So why it is important for them to stop losing data? Why it's important for them to instantly share data with somebody else, how we call it, stay on the same BOM, because this is the root cause for their mistakes, and this is the recipe for the future competitiveness of many companies. So, but those are things, and people are still the biggest challenge in everything that will come to the data management and optimization of processes in a company.
So in your opinion, it's all about the business case and the vision.
All right, I think we approach end of our 5 basic slides and questions. Do we have any questions coming from audience? I guess.
We do.
Yes.
We'll start with the first one. So how do you control security when data is placed on the cloud?
Yeah, it's a great question. Everyone asks this. The control of security goes through the multiple mechanisms, starting from the data encryption, moving towards accounts. Data is isolation, encryption, and data accessing. So there are a lot of technologies that were developed in this world that makes your data secured. So security as a process divided in the physical and software security. So we apply different technologies that makes your data secure, and on top of this there is a process of making data secure. So I think after these years of work, we came to conclusion that on average, a cloud system is more secure than on-premise system. And when I say on average, of course, there are different exceptions. You can screw everything. But if you think about security levels, that cloud providers provide much better security mechanisms to protect the physical environment, to protect servers, to protect access to the data. And it all works as a process for us to ensure that everyone is getting access to the data that they need. But again, we would be happy to speak to everyone. And again, environments are different, requirements are different. And those technologies are developing, an ongoing development. So we're improving this all the time.
Okay. How do you measure digital transformation? What are the first things to start with?
Well, that's a great question. The measurement, I would say, honestly, I'm not ready with the framework of grades, but somewhere in my mind, I think I've seen some researchers how introduced 5 level of digital transformation, maturity. So improvising now without bringing these researchers up, I would say it starts from the boundary of if you have electronic data or not, and then if you have data logically managed by companies and processes that are not involving document or mimicking document. So the biggest challenge that I've seen in the digital transformation is that it's not a question of how to make document electronic. It's a question how to change the process. Because if before you've been doing change orders by placing a piece of paper in the tray and sending it to people to sign, so that was kind of change order, right? So if you print the same piece of document and routing this document between people, it will not make it digitally transformed, because it will be the same document goes between all these people. So bringing the granularity of the environment, so helping to companies to go granularly on data, access, transform their process. I think this is where it will become more mature. But it's essentially about data access and data flow, and make it out of existing paper documents or electronic documents. That's what will make companies digitally transformed processes.
What do you think about data structure standards and to avoid replication or redundancy in PLMs?
Well, there are three questions here. I would say let's start from the first two, the data structure and the standardization. I think standards are super important, although to create standards are extremely hard. Because the standards are expensive and requires agreement, and this is something that's really hard in organizations. So I think the standards will be evolving and bringing more and more in use, and the more widely they will be used, the more standards we will see. So that's something that requires investment, and something that requires commitment. And a lot of these commitments should come from customers that are interested in these standards and willing to contribute to those standards. So it's a kind of very hard mix, because in general standards makes life easy, but to agree about standards it's hard. So that's where I think I've seen it for the last 20 years, where some of the standards becoming more mature, mostly technological standards, like we had XML standards, we had some web standards, how to make interoperability between systems. I think that's something that will progress, and we will see more and more companies adopting those standards. For example, programmatic interfaces, RESTful API, REST services. It's pretty much standard, so we can use this standard way to access data. What is separate, and it comes very often in the PLM environment, is that how we can agree about data representation. And this is something that's super hard, in my view, because companies are looking how to do it, but this is a process that takes them a long time. So what I think the focus should be is bringing systems that can help to customers to even create standard environments for themselves. So, and then share this information and share the standards and make technology that helps to these standards to proliferate between different environments. This is where I believe it can be very promising, rather than making everyone now to develop a standard for 10 years and agree on set of properties. I think it's really hard to do. That's what I've seen. The last portion of this question, redundancy, is not very much clear to me what means redundancy. So if somebody who asked this question can reach out to us online, we would be happy to answer this question.
Okay. Getting service for everyone is very powerful. Is there a chance for integrating asset monitoring in OpenBOM or PLM?
Well, there is always chance if there are customers that are interested in this environment. Like our vision was to make a service that available to everyone to use. But it's a business, and that's why we see who is interested in what functions and features. And like Chris was mentioned in his, and when he was answering that we are releasing system very often. So you have monthly release for OpenBOM, and we're focusing on features, functions that people are requesting. So I think the same is about integrations. We have some great integrations with engineering environments, with PDM systems, with the ERP systems, and looking for online catalogs and more integration, it's certainly something that can come. We also have great partners that help to make those integrations with different environments, also legacy environment and also other environments. So you can take a look on our website for partners, and you can find, this is usually the first step of thinking about any integration. And talk to us online. We would be happy to discuss how to integrate.
Through the technological advancements, both hardware and software, are among us. Most of the new implementations, migrations in large organizations are struggling. Where is the question?
I'm trying to understand the question, Helena. I see it looks like very, very long.
Yeah. Most of the implementation. Maybe Santi, if you can post again and ask again the question, that would be helpful. Give us some light. The next question is from Patrick. And what are your thoughts on handling organizational change in a PLM implementation? I think we're going to discuss that next week, right, Oleg?
Yes, I think it's an amazing question that will lead to our next conversations about how we develop products, how we decide what to develop, and also how we sell products, because that's also something that is changing. And I think it's a great question, Helena, for the session when we will speak about education and training people, because
Yes.
It all starts from people. So I think that leads us exactly to those sessions. So come to the next sessions. We'll discuss it.
Yes. And the last question, where does PLM tracking system start and end? There are quotes, purchase orders, specification, engineering documents, bills of materials, test documents, reports, etc.
Well, it's a great question about boundaries. So, I will take it in the historical perspective, because historically it was about what is the organization that you are working with, and then everything was siloed. Like you have engineering organizations, so engineering organizations use their system. And then there is a procurement and supply chain organization that will do it separately. And then manufacturing planning, manufacturing production environment, separate. I think historically it comes from these boundaries. So PLM was mostly focused on the engineering, where ERP systems were mostly focused on production planning, procurement, and some others. But what we see a lot, that the boundaries are blurring, and the main reason for that is the efficiency. Regardless if it's a large company or small company, the question about information flow efficiency is one of the most important. So PLM is expanding to support information about product through the all life cycle stages, starting very early from requirement and going very downstream to production planning, and then managing of information about physical products and services. We will talk next session about how companies are moving from selling products to selling services. And you will understand why to manage information about physical products is not less important than manage engineering bill of materials. So all this together will help to understand the boundary. So when you work with the small companies, it's a completely separate perspective on boundaries. The companies are looking how to get a single representation of information and a process for them. This is how we discovered at OpenBOM the ability to connect data from design to procurement and purchase orders. And the reason we did it is because working with the many small and medium-sized companies, we found that this is the most efficient way to help them to organize information flow. Because those companies are just not about to buy multiple products, they're looking into one single immersive environment. So it's always good question about boundaries. Start always from the understanding what do you want to achieve in an organization and what is your process. Once you understand your process, you will understand better the boundary of the system and what you need.
Okay, we have one more, it looks like. Are
Okay.
there, for small companies, specific workflows, modules, best practices for configuration management?
Well, I think what I can, like in a very 1 minute that we have, I would recommend to take a look on our training library, which is an amazing resource for companies that want to discover what they need to do. And I think that could be a starting point about how to organize the data in a company, which all starts from the managing of items, part numbers, their revisions and records about all product structure. That would be a starting point. And then on top of this, how to manage change. And I think then talk to us. We would be happy to give you advice and direct you to the right resources. Okay, it looks like we're just on the top of the hour.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for this great conversation. Thank you, Helena.
Thank you,
Peter,
everyone. Thank you, Oleg.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
And our
thank you,
next
Chris, for
session-
joining us.
Our next
Okay.
session will be on Thursday at the same time. for
Okay,
anyone
thank
that
you,
can attend
everyone.
then as well.
Very good. Thank
Okay,
you,
thank
guys.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.